Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host Bill Stierle. And Bill, I'm really excited to talk about a recent current event that I think is a great opportunity to talk about people's needs and how needs is really focusing on needs is so important. Can you help lead us into this, and then we'll talk about the current event?
I think so. If the main thing, Tom, is that when a person's focused on the emotion as they're communicating, and a big part of our communication is that when a person has an emotional response, the other person triggers and works off of that emotional response instead of taking a moment to find out which need is causing that emotion to show up. And what happens then is that they're focusing on the emotion. They're not focusing on the cause. And in communication, if you don't focus on the cause, all of a sudden the emotions just start escalating and judgment and criticism start occupying the space. And then people are not really, focused on things, and it really handcuffs it chains us to a narrative that's not very clear. And This is what we're going to talk about today, is that how to watch that. And then it's the person that goes to angry first is the person that's wrong.
Isn't that interesting?
And that's not really what's fully true. The person has maybe a good reason to they have a good reason to become angry. Their need for justice wasn't met, or their need for fairness wasn't met. And they have some judgments about how they would like fairness and how they would like justice. But because they're communicating and trying to explain something, they're actually in a debate, in a moment, they're actually will be digging themselves into a hole without them knowing it.
And I think that's what's happened. And I'd like to set up the example if I could.
Please do. Absolutely.
So quite recently at a fundraising event, I believe, Joe Biden was commenting about, his work in the past with some other senators very early in his career who he vehemently disagreed with on, policy, among many things. And he was talking specifically about two men that were unabashed, outspoken segregationists. And, he doesn't align and didn't at the time align with them, meaning he was not a segregationist. But Joe Biden was trying to highlight his skills as a negotiator, and also I think some about his qualities as a person, that he doesn't have to agree with everybody. He doesn't have to refuse to work with people, negotiate, and find common ground to achieve a greater good just because he doesn't agree with them or believe the same things that they believe. And I'm sure in Joe's mind, he was, really trying to communicate something very positive about himself.
Yes.
The unfortunate part is, as he did it, he was talking about one of these two senators, these segregationists, and saying that he never called me boy, but he did call me son. And this is just, to Joe, I'm sure, was a very as he's talking about it, was a very sort of incidental, maybe somewhat trivial aspect of it. And I don't think he was necessarily trying to defend the segregationists, but he was just talking about that despite another senator calling him son instead of Senator Biden, or addressing him more professionally, he still worked with him, right?
Yeah. Well, I believe at the time, if we go back to the 60s or whenever this thing was, the date we can confirm sometime, the use of language and how a triggering language takes place. All you got to do is put a sentence from back then into a present moment sentence, and we lose historical perspective. We lose, this is what the person said. This is how the person addressed me as a first-year senator, as a junior person in this room. And this person was coming from even a generation back from that.
Sure.
And even using that derogatory towards me. Well, how is that going to play, in 2019, 2020? Well, all you got to do is just say, oh my gosh, we've heard years of that language of derogatory use in our direction. And we're angry and we're mad about that. And a person can experience hurt by the use of that language. And this becomes very, very problematic really quick, because the focus is on the emotion of the word that is being used as a trigger. What's not being spoken about is what the need is. Now, the person that has had, at least from what I've seen up to this point, is Cory Booker made a response to it. And what we would like to do at this thing, and what we're trying to contribute, Tom, is a fresh, new perspective about how to have an integrity response versus a reactive response.
Right, because I think Cory Booker definitely, and Kamala Harris also, but really the more vocal one, and the one that's getting a lot more attention, is Cory Booker, because he demanded an apology from Biden about, especially because of the use of the word boy and what he was describing, and how that's such a hurtful word to the African American community, because it was derogatory for a black person, right? And
again, that's focusing on the trigger,
sure,
not focusing on the cause, and most certainly not focusing on the solution. An apology is not necessarily a solution. That's going to upset people when they hear me say that, but it's not necessarily a solution. Many times, an apology is used as a get out of jail free card. I mean, it's not used as a deepening of compassion and empathy for what the other person went through. It's used to, oh, I apologize, I'm done, thanks very much.
Right, it's kind of like, I made a mistake, here's the cure for the mistake, when the apology isn't the cure. The apology should be an example of something deeper that did try to right the wrong, right?
I have a compassionate understanding about how you got affected by. That's what an apology is for. It is not used as that now.
Right.
It is used as a get out of jail free card. So it's better, rather than an apology, let's do Joe Biden first. And then let's get out of the reactivity, because as it'll soon become a circling, what do you call a circular firing squad of, who's getting shot by which person. You don't have to do that. You don't have to shoot at Joe, and Joe doesn't have to shoot back at Cory.
Well, so how could Cory have reacted differently that would have sort of taken the high road, if you will, or maybe that's not the right term, but to have not had the emotional response and to have, gotten to a better place quicker?
Instead of the word apology, the word awareness needed to show up. So it would have sounded like this. What I'd like to hear, from Joe Biden is that there's an awareness that the word boy over years has had an adverse effect towards the need for respect and equality for African American people. See what I just did?
Wow. You really took Joe Biden to school in a way through that
I'm
statement.
schooling him. The word boy over the years since the 1960s has had an adverse effect towards mutual respect, equality, and even justice for the African American community. If he could just say that back to me, I think we would be good.
Oh my gosh. And if he had done something like that, no matter, Biden would have no choice but to say he does understand that. And even if it's sincere, no matter what he does.
Watch this. Watch how it gets better. It gets better. It gets better like this. I really appreciate Senator Booker bringing that to my attention, because back there in the field of time, they were talking down to me and they were putting me as the same category. Now I see what Cory Booker is going for. Now all they're doing is they're just spitting words at each other, not understanding about where each other is coming from.
Right. And I think that Joe Biden, while I think initially he thought what he said was benign and helpful to his campaign, now he's being attacked for it. And when Cory Booker said that Joe Biden should apologize, how Joe Biden reacted to that, again, was emotional. And it seems that he tried to play the role of the parent, right?
Right. So now all of a sudden there's a big trouble that's going to show up next, because the thing called should know better is going to now cause anger, which is a part of our podcast today.
Right.
Instead of the passion that's needed from both people, we're going to get a slingshotting of anger instead of a slingshotting of passion. So let me show you the difference. It's when people are focused on emotions, they become distracted from the needs or the needs that are being spoken about inside another person. If you want people to be docile and subservient, disconnect them from their needs. That's what's happened.
Right.
This shapes their brain to wonder how others are judging them instead of focusing how their needs are unmet. So, if I'm going to be Cory Booker, I'm going to say, listen, I'd like, Senator Biden, Vice President Biden, to have awareness about the impact of the word boy. Because during his interview with Don Lemon, he could have moved up 5 to 10 points by framing it the way I'm framing it right now. Let me say that one more time. He could move up 5 to 10 points by saying, this is what justice, this is what mutual respect would look like. And as the presidential candidate, I would like us to have greater language and awareness versus, here it comes, Donald Trump that doesn't have this language awareness that is actually, because who's the person that's the problem?
It's
in
Donald
their
Trump.
case, it would be Trump's language.
Right.
We really, just to have a little bit of more awareness and conscious about mutual respect, how the word boy is used moving forward, and how we want to use the word boy in the 20 sentence so that we don't create this docile and subservient language to each other. And we're really talking about the need for equality and justice, which I believe Vice President Biden was really striving for. He becomes an ally.
Right. And instead, Vice President Biden got put in a defensive position, being asked by the media, are you going to apologize to Cory Booker?
Worse than that, he put himself in a defensive position because he doesn't have this language awareness.
Right.
And if you don't have a language awareness, you're going to get dinged on multiple levels.
Well, I
So
think we're starting to see that, aren't we? I mean,
we
Joe
are.
Biden comes out of the gate as like, oh, the savior of the party, the elder statesman, the guy with experience, the adult at the table who's going to have the best shot at beating Trump. And we see him continuing to deal with self-inflicted wounds and maybe show that he's maybe a little out of touch with, well, some might say he's out of touch with things in 2020, and maybe that's a bad label, but
It's not. But it's the hard part about it. It's as a part of Joe's story. Joe's story is someone called him a boy.
right.
Someone was trying to get him to be submissive, and he stepped into it. And what now? What both of them are fighting for is not really what the truth about what happened. Both of them are fighting for a different version or truth perspective about the environment, which is not really what was happening in the field of time. They're in an angry place instead of being in a passionate place.
Right.
Passionate about equality, passionate about mutual respect, and anger that's rooted in and is caused by a judgmental language of should, a judgmental language of right, wrong, a judgmental language of label and diagnosis. He should know better. All of a sudden, he's inflaming people that would vote for Senator Booker. Oh, no, that have voted for Senator Booker to make him a senator, that like him. He's now taking those people that are on the margin and either, pulling them away from there's a fight between, it's called stealing sheep. It's like, what are you stealing the sheep for? They're your sheep. They're in the same faith and in the same identity. Now, here's the weird part about it. This is what causes people not to vote. My person is not the candidate. Therefore, I'm staying home.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That doesn't help anybody.
Watch.
Yeah.
Bernie was my guy. And because Hillary is the nominee, I am staying home. This is a time for inclusion. Both of them need to think about inclusion right now. And when a candidate that puts their foot either accidentally or from an awareness piece in a pile of crap by the language choice they made, or, Tom, by a clip that is misrepresenting them.
Sure.
Not taking advantage of that. The need for truth can eliminate or isolate people. John McCain learned this one, tragically.
How so?
Well, there was this wonderful woman, older woman, that came out on stage and said, Barack Obama is a Muslim.
Oh, I remember this. On one of the debate, or one of his rallies or town hall meetings.
One of his rallies.
Yeah.
He's not a Muslim. And
well, she said he's a Muslim. I can't vote for him because he's a Muslim, right? And then Then Joe, and then I'm sorry, John McCain
cleaned it up. He says, ma'am, he's not a Muslim. I have different ideas and I have different facts that would be, so what happened was it de-escalated. He was going for truth, but he was correcting a judgment instead of empathizing with the woman, which would have got him votes.
So how would McCain have done that differently? That would have, because that became like, that's still a clip that they played for
Still
many,
play.
many years later. They still play
do.
today. And it
Still.
probably did really hurt McCain's candidacy. What could he have done to have shown respect for Obama, respect for truth, but not hurt himself so much?
Lead with the need. Ma'am, we are running a respectful campaign that does not separate us as Americans. A respectful campaign looks like that other people of faith gets to vote for us. And even though you have the idea that he's a Muslim, that's not fully true. But what respect looks like is that all voices count.
So instead of arguing the facts and saying, no, he's not a Muslim, as if being a Muslim would be a disqualifier for running for president in the first place,
right?
The better place to go is from the need, and then saying that, hey, America is a place that embraces people of all religions. I disagree with him on the issues. He may be a Muslim, he may not. He could have sort of done a little bit of the Trump thing where he got that uncertainty hanging out there, right?
Yeah, my experience of him, he's not a Muslim. But what we're talking about in leadership is respect for different viewpoints looks like this. Respect for different religions look like this. And then, we're not a nation that runs on religion. We're a nation that runs on mutual respect for each other. He now just pulls somewhere between 100,000 votes on his side that he wouldn't have gotten, or 100,000 of people that would have stayed home.
Sure.
They're going like, I'm empowered to go vote, to get my butt out of my house to go vote for McCain because he is a respected leader, because this is the way leaders are supposed to talk.
Wow.
So how truth gets purchased and gets hijacked is when the emotion comes up, Tom, you get the other side to go to anger or get stuck on a judgment or a criticism or a label and amplify that. So if you take the word deplorable, which was just used in the Trump campaign, remember Hillary said the word deplorable.
Yeah, he's still running against Hillary, even at his, speech to announce his re-election candidacy, right?
He has Hillary married to the Democratic Party. He says, she's bad, they're bad. So he's diagnosing it. He's stoking the anger piece. And it is a short-term way that people get wins, because this is the way he's gotten wins in the past, is by using anger when somebody doesn't know how to diffuse his anger by what you and I are talking about, which, guess what? Most of the Democratic candidates don't know how to diffuse an angry sentence. They don't, because they meet it with either judgment or explanation or a rule. We're going to beat them in court. Right. You can't beat an angry person in court. He's already flamethrowered you already. You can't get to justice there through anger. You can get to justice through fairness. You can get to justice through integrity. You can get to justice through equality. But you can't get to it through anger.
Wow.
The huge part about this thing is how we get ourselves locked up, how we chain ourselves in our narratives. And Elizabeth Warren, by making a statement and then explaining things, is not as strong as Elizabeth Warren making a statement and then having empathy for the other person's belief that she needs to listen to her.
Okay.
That's where the power is. Same as Bernie, same as Camilla Harris, same as Cory, same as Buttigieg, all the rest of the folks. Amy Klobuchar made a mistake the other day. She did the same thing. She goes, here's my first 100 days. This is the way I work as a manager. I plan these 100 days. And these are the first 100 days. No other candidate has done the 100 days. Well, we can see what you're going to do on your 100 days. Great. Tie them to needs. Don't tie them to your performance.
Right.
Start tying them to what value that the listener or the voter is going to get out of your 100 days. Because you don't have much time to judge what the other person has done. You don't have any time to do it. And quite frankly, Americans don't have the stomach for it right now. You just don't. So, I mean, a big part of it is that we don't have the stomach for it, and we're tired and exhausted by the, impulse tweets and the chaos. So the person that empathizes and starts picking the higher ground is, well, it sounds like most Americans are feeling tired about not having their need for stability met inside the White House. I did not say Trump. I did not say his policies. I didn't say this. Yeah, it sounds like Americans would really like more predictability in their government. Vote for me. I mean, start claiming the space.
Right.
Nobody else is claiming it.
There's a big vacuum there in the middle with, everybody really missing the target and in what each of these Democratic candidates is doing to try to jockey for position and try to move up within the ranks of all these different people who are running. And
it'll sound like this. Medicare for all will look like stability and safety and financial security for Americans so they're able to live productive lives, not thinking that a one illness will wipe out their retirement.
Yep.
I think I just gave Bernie Sanders 10 more points.
Oh, easily, if he would only listen.
10 points.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them just don't know yet.
They don't have the skills.
They don't know, understand. And the awareness and the skills are the problem. They're not really seeing it fully from our perspective, Tom.
No.
And that's where the strength comes from. This is called power with somebody, not power over. You can't power over somebody saying, I have greater strength than you. I'm standing for a better value, because the other side will just, say, hell, no, you're not.
Right.
Our values are better than yours. No. And now all of a sudden we're in a middle school fight.
Right. Well, wow.
Not to say that's true. So the next time we get together, Tom, I think that this is really valuable. The next time to get together, we need to take a look at these different candidates, especially because we're going to be coming off of the debates next time. We want to come off these candidates and really identify their misses, where they're missing. And where their messages need to change, and what they can take in things. It's like it's like what safety for Americans look like is an open dialogue and narrative, so that the Iranians aren't scared of us, and then they don't have to react instead of making them angry at us. Because that's what we did. We just made them angry.
Sure.
We made them angry. They reacted. And then all of a sudden it gives our news media some emotional reaction that gives some political party to say this bombing of this oil ship was done by the Iranian government, which is, there's some partial truth to it, but it's our reaction to. And limited people on their side making reaction to the dollar sign, the impact of Americans right now from that country at this point. Please.
Yeah, really.
Come on now.
All right.
All right.
Well, hey,
So
that sounds like fun. That was fun today. I like the idea of moving forward, talking more about what each of these candidates is saying and doing, and sort of taking them to school or pointing out their opportunities and their misses, and hopefully their successes. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Tom. Looking forward to the next time. See you then.
Okay, take care.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.